The wreck beneath the River Plate. Beneath the muddy waters just off the coast of Montevideo, Uruguay, lies a forgotten relic of one of the most violent conflicts in human history. For decades it remained hidden from view, buried by time, tide, and silt. But recently that silence was broken. The wreck is that of the Admiral Graf Spee, a powerful German warship from World War II, known as a pocket battleship because of its smaller size but oversized firepower. In 1939, after a dramatic naval showdown with the British Royal Navy, the Graf Spee was scuttled, deliberately sunk by its own crew, to prevent its capture. Since then, it has been more myth than memory, a ghost ship resting beneath the River Plate. The ship was part steel and part symbol, designed in secret to bypass restrictions from the Treaty of Versailles. What makes this wreck so special is not just its history, but what modern divers and researchers have recently discovered deep inside it. Things no one expected to still exist after more than 80 years underwater. These include lost documents, encrypted communication devices, and personal items that shed new light on life aboard a Nazi warship. For historians and naval experts, the Graf Spee was no longer just a piece of scrap metal. It became something far more valuable, a time capsule, a deadly ship built on deception. The Admiral Graf Spee was launched by Nazi Germany in 1934 and quickly became one of the most feared ships of its time. Though it was officially listed as weighing only 10,000 tons to comply with the Treaty of Versailles, the truth was very different. The ship actually weighed around 16,000 tons and carried weapons and engines far more powerful than anyone expected. Its 6 11-inch guns were usually found only on much larger battleships, and with diesel engines that allowed it to reach nearly 29 knots, the ship was both fast and deadly. During the first few months of World War II, the Graf Spee was sent into the South Atlantic with one mission: hunt and destroy enemy merchant ships. And it did just that, sinking 9 vessels in a short period, disrupting vital Allied supply lines. What made the mission chilling was how efficient and calculated it was. Still, Captain Hans Langsdorff followed international laws of war. He made sure that crews of the sunken ships were rescued and treated humanely. But that couldn't last forever. In December 1939, the British Royal Navy caught up with the Graf Spee near the coast of South America, leading to the famous Battle of the River Plate. Though outnumbered, the German ship put up a fierce fight and damaged all 3 British cruisers. However, it was also badly hit and forced to dock in Montevideo. There, under pressure and tricked into thinking more British ships were on the way, Langsdorff made a dramatic decision: to scuttle the Graf Spee rather than fight a hopeless battle. The scuttling and the mystery that followed on December 17, 1939, thousands of people lined the shores of Montevideo to watch an event that would be talked about for generations. The Graf Spee's crew, following Langsdorff's orders, set charges inside the ship and blew it up. Massive plumes of smoke rose into the sky as the steel hull cracked and flames roared across the deck. The ship sank slowly, taking its secrets with it. Just days later, Langsdorff, racked with guilt and determined to take full responsibility, wrapped himself in the German naval flag and shot himself in a hotel room in Buenos Aires. For years after the scuttling, the wreck of the Graf Spee remained partly visible above the river's surface. Locals and tourists could see twisted beams and rusted metal at low tide, but slowly the river took her back. Mud, storms, and currents buried the wreck more and more with each passing year. By the 1990s, almost nothing could be seen. And yet the story never really went away. Whispers continued. Stories of sealed compartments, missing artifacts, or even hidden Nazi technology left behind. The idea that something important might still be locked inside the Graf Spee kept researchers curious. They wondered what had been left behind, untouched for decades. Some believed the ship was holding on to its secrets for a reason, waiting for the right moment and the right tools to give them up. A new generation of divers and discoveries in the early 2000s, a group of Uruguayan divers and historians backed by private funding, decided to recover parts of the Graf Spee before the river claimed it entirely. In 2004, they began pulling remarkable objects from the wreck. Among the most impressive was a massive 27-ton rangefinder, an optical device that had helped the ship fire with deadly precision. Covered in rust and seaweed, it looked like something from a lost world. That same year, they recovered something even more controversial: a giant bronze eagle holding a swastika, Nazi Germany's national emblem. The eagle had once decorated the stern of the ship. Its recovery sparked an international debate. Should it be displayed in a museum? Destroyed? Sold? One idea, supported by artists and peace advocates, was to melt it down and turn it into a dove, transforming a symbol of hate into one of peace. But veterans groups and historians pushed back, arguing that destroying history, even painful history, was the wrong choice. In the end, the eagle was placed in secure storage. Still, that salvage effort brought the Grafsby back into public awareness. Dozens of smaller artifacts were also recovered: typewriters, dishes, tools, and other personal items that told stories about the men who had served aboard. But many parts of the ship remained unreachable. The deepest compartments, like the communication rooms and officers' quarters, were still sealed shut. And what might still be hiding inside those rooms? That question remained unanswered. The 2025 expedition and the hidden vault. In early 2025, something extraordinary happened. An international team of marine archaeologists, engineers, and historians arrived in Montevideo with new technology and new hopes. Their goal was to explore the most sealed parts of the Grafsby for the first time. Led by Dr. Elena Koig, the team used high-tech submersibles, advanced sonar, and 3D mapping tools to scan the wreck in detail. One of their tools, a custom-built submersible named Kronos, was able to move through tight openings and avoid dangerous debris. Using sonar and remote cameras, it mapped a part of the ship no one had seen since 1939. What they found shocked everyone. Behind the rusted steel, they discovered a sealed chamber that had never been touched, not by wartime divers, not by salvage teams. Based on German blueprints, the room appeared to be an officer's archive or backup communications center. Kronos slowly opened the hatch to the room and revealed what looked like a desk, shelves, and most importantly, a locked metal container, buried partly in the silt. Marked with a faded black eagle and serial numbers, the box seemed intentionally hidden. It was too risky to open it underwater, so the team sealed the chamber and prepared for a second dive to recover it properly. Even before opening it, rumors began flying. Some said it might hold military intelligence. Others guessed it could contain personal logs, encrypted codes, or even secret Nazi orders. Whatever it was, it had survived untouched for over 80 years. The contents of the vault, and their implications. When the sealed metal box was finally brought to the surface and carefully opened in a lab in Montevideo, the contents stunned the experts. Inside were 3 waterproof storage trunks, each packed with items that had somehow escaped destruction. First were the paper documents. Wrapped in cloth, sealed in wax, and stored in double metal sleeves, these papers were shockingly well preserved. They included coded transmissions, personal notes, and even secret naval orders. Some were stamped with Geheim Kommandosak, meaning top secret. Others were marked for high-level clearance. One document detailed tactics for evading British warships. Another described using neutral cargo ships as radar shields, a clever and unexpected strategy. Alongside the papers were 2 modified encryption machines. They were similar to the Enigma devices used by the German military, but with changes, made for ship-to-submarine communication. These customized settings gave historians new insight into how the German Navy coordinated its attacks. Even more exciting was that the machines came with configuration sheets, rare documents that help cryptographers understand exactly how they were used. But perhaps the most human discovery came from a leather-bound journal. The handwriting inside suggested it belonged to a senior officer, maybe even Captain Langsdorff himself. The entries described the pressure of command, doubts about Nazi strategies, and a growing sense of isolation at sea. One page, written days before the final battle, revealed concern about Berlin's orders and questioned whether the crew was being used more as a symbol than as a fighting force. These writings turned the Graf Spee from a war machine into a personal story of duty, fear, and difficult choices. Why the Graf Spee still matters today. The discovery inside the Graf Spee is more than just an exciting chapter in naval history. It's a reminder of how the past still has power over the present. For decades, we've known about the ship's firepower, its tactics, and its dramatic scuttling. But until now, we didn't know what the people on board were thinking or what they were told to do. These newly found papers and devices suggest that the German Navy had more detailed intelligence than we previously believed. The logs show constant communication with Berlin and hints of other ships operating nearby, vessels that historians hadn't confirmed until now. This raises questions about what other missions were taking place in the South Atlantic in 1939, and how many remain undocumented. Just as important is what the discovery tells us about the people involved. These were men caught in the early days of a global conflict, trying to carry out orders, survive at sea, and make decisions in a confusing and dangerous time. The personal notes reveal stress, disagreement, and even moral struggle. It's a side of war we often forget, where strategy and humanity collide. Today, the materials found in the Graf Spee are being preserved, translated, and studied. Scholars are preparing papers, museum exhibits are being planned, and conferences are scheduled to discuss the implications. And yet, the biggest lesson may be simple. History is never really buried. Sometimes, it just takes the right moment and the right tools to bring it back into the light. The debate over memory, history, and forgiveness, even as the Graf Spee's physical remains continue to emerge from the riverbed, the wreck has stirred a different kind of unrest, one rooted not in steel or machinery but in memory. The debate over what to do with the recovered artifacts, especially those linked to Nazi symbolism, has split communities, countries, and even historians. For some, the Graf Spee is a war grave, a sunken reminder of a painful time, and any items recovered should be treated with the same respect given to human remains. They argue that the artifacts, especially those bearing swastikas or German military insignias, belong either in sealed archives or should be buried once more. They believe displaying such items, even in museums, risks glorifying the wrong message or giving space to extremist ideologies. Others see the wreck differently, not as a glorification of the Nazi era, but as a teaching tool. They argue that history, no matter how dark, must be confronted openly. Preserving and showing these objects can help people understand how propaganda, military might, and fear combine to create one of the most destructive forces in history. They believe that removing these reminders only makes it easier to forget the dangers of repeating those same mistakes. And then there are those who focus on reconciliation. They ask, can something born of war like the Graf Spee be transformed into a message of peace? Should parts of the wreck be turned into memorials or reimagined in public art to remind future generations of both the cost of war and the power of healing? These are not easy questions, but they are exactly the kind of questions that arise when history refuses to stay buried. What comes next for the Graf Spee and its legacy? Now that the sealed vault has been opened and its secrets revealed, many are asking, what comes next? Will more dives be planned? Are there still hidden rooms, undiscovered objects, or deeper truths waiting beneath the river plate? The 2025 expedition confirmed that several parts of the ship remain inaccessible due to structural collapse and heavy sediment. However, the success of the recent recovery has sparked renewed interest from governments, museums, and private organizations. There is talk of launching a full underwater mapping project to digitally preserve the entire wreck before nature or time destroys it. Further, with 3D scans, historians could create virtual reality reconstructions of the Graf Spee, allowing people around the world to explore it safely, without disturbing what may still be a final resting place for some. Meanwhile, the documents and machines recovered from the vault are undergoing forensic analysis. Cryptographers are working to decode any remaining messages, while historians compare the notes with Allied intelligence from the time. Already, small inconsistencies have been found, messages that were sent but never intercepted, or strategies that hint at broader plans by Nazi naval command in the Atlantic. These findings could reshape how we understand Germany's early war strategy. But perhaps more than anything, what comes next is storytelling. Whether through documentaries, museum exhibits, or school lessons, the Graf Spee will continue to teach. Its story, one of war, loss, loyalty, fear, and discovery, has once again found a voice. And as long as people are willing to listen, that voice will echo not just from the depths of a river, but across time. A ship that still sails through our imagination. Though the Admiral Graf Spee has rested at the bottom of the river plate for over 85 years, it's clear that it has never truly stopped moving. Not in the minds of historians, not in the hearts of families touched by its story, and not in the eyes of those who still watch the surface of that brown water, wondering what remains below. The ship that once symbolized fear, power, and propaganda has now become a symbol of something else entirely: memory. The Graf Spee reminds us that history is never just about what happened. It's also about how we remember, how we choose to tell those stories, and what we learn from them. A steel warship stripped of its crew and purpose can become a mirror to our own humanity, showing us both the darkness we are capable of and the light we still search for. In 1939, the Graf Spee sailed as a weapon of war. In 2025, it speaks as a whisper from the past, urging us to dig deeper, to listen carefully, and to remember the cost of silence. Whether you view it as a ghost ship, a grave, a puzzle, or a museum in the making, one thing is certain: the story of the Admiral Graf Spee is not finished. It continues to unfold, one vault, one artifact, one question at a time. And as long as the world is willing to ask why, to feel, and to understand, then the Graf Spee will never truly sink.